Yeah, did you like Ariba?
Sorry?
Did you like Ariba?
Yes and no. So
That's what everybody says.
sometimes, so it's a bit complex to use. That's why buyers tend to. It's very difficult to convince them to use on a regular basis because
Right.
it's often very much easier just to send an RFQ by email, and that's why if your system is for example, easier to use, less complex, this can be an advantage.
Right, yeah. So, if you remember, I activated demolition contractors, and I actually changed the name to test so I would know what I'm doing later to fix that. Because one of my sales guys would get upset with me if I don't make it the way it was. And then you can see what vendors are under, or suppliers are under that group. And so if you say that you want to create this tender and you only want it to be advertised to these pre-qualified vendors, then nobody else will even know that that tender is available. It's only those people that are being, And then it's very wizard driven, so you click on next, and it'll give you a unique ID, tell you some information about, what you're creating. This is kind of the header information. The contact of the tender. This is the person who is the contact. By default, it comes up with the person who is using the system. And then if you have your own tender number, tender 123 or whatever, you can put that there.
So, for example, this Andrew Stepanenko, which has a very Ukrainian surname. So he's a tender creator and has manager's rights to change everything. Is it possible to get a colleague from a stakeholders department and give him only viewer rights?
Correct. Yep. You do that back in the system administrator screen. I didn't go into all those details, but I could show you that. I thought I would I'll take you through this, and then we go back and kind of see where it relates. Sender. Okay, so this is when you're creating the tender. It gives you a kind of a map down, a breadcrumb, so to speak, at the top of the screen, so you know what you were doing. And if you step away for a long time and your session gets ready to die, and you've already created all this data, we give you an alert that it's a countdown timer. It says your session is getting ready to die in 2 minutes or whatever it is. And if you don't come back, we automatically save this data as a draft, so you don't lose anything.
Yeah.
You can set the start date manually if you uncheck this box and pick a date and time, or you can just say if this box is checked, it'll just start immediately when it's published or approved, depending. And then of course you have to set the end date and time, and then give it a name. Oops. If you have a scope of work, these are all configured. Like I said, everything on here is configured where you can actually add fields, custom fields if you want. But if you have a scope of work, you can enter that in as plain text, or you can enter it in, compose it as rich text. If you need rich text, you should go to this full screen mode. Or you can actually pull it in from, if you want to pull it in from a Word document, anything like that. Pretty much everything in our systems allows you to connect with Word or Excel or something. These listing images here, this is something that you can configure, but basically it's these images when people search for a tender, it's these little thumbnail images that the client has added to make it, make the search much nicer.
Okay, so it's like an icon of the event, this kind of image. Or if I have event-related, I don't know, design or some specific document, it should be included here or in the other section?
Yeah, so this is where you would add it, but when the people out on the web, when you go to www.ProRFX.com or your website or whatever, they'll see that image here, and it'll make, it makes them more interested when they see these images. They just like pictures.
Okay. But for instance, our idea is to use only for pre-qualified suppliers, then it's not applicable, right?
Yeah, it can be still, yeah. You could configure this to do anything you want. You can make it work exactly the way you want.
Okay.
So I don't know if you get into disadvantaged businesses, like in the United States especially. There are some other countries like England, but they promote disadvantaged businesses like woman-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses. You can set goals here, like, disadvantaged participation. Well, this says engineering project. I'm not sure how they.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we got 8% that they're looking to have for disadvantaged business on engineering projects. So you can set that up where you don't even have to display these sections. I'm just kind of showing you, these sections so you kind of get a feel for what's available. Award scoring. This is a big issue for most of our clients, where they put out a tender or they put out a solicitation, we call a listing, if you remember, and they need to score the bids that come in. And so this is how we do it in our system. By default, there's no scoring, but if the creator of the listing wants to add scoring, they just say use scoring method. We have several different types of scoring methods. We got whole bid, line item, ordinal ranking. Ordinal ranking means that rather than using a percent success or a point system, you use a placing system, like you're in first place, you're in second place, you're in third place. That's what ordinal ranking is. Whole bid means that the scoring committee members, the people that are doing the scoring, they look at the bid and they score one time. By line item means that they look at the bid and they score each section of the bid, and then it'll calculate a total at the bottom. So, and then you can display the scoring matrix to the bidders, or you can display only the criteria of the bidders, or you can display the criteria and the worth. Down here in this section is where you actually create the worth. Let's say that they understand requirements, and you're going to give them, 30%.
Do I understand correctly? So it's not necessarily should be an EO also for RFP or RFQ. It's also possible to make it visible to the suppliers if they are the first in the rating price or the worst price, right?
Right, correct. Yep. Okay, and then and we can say price. And we'll just say, you can keep this going as much as you want. You just keep adding and adding, but you have to come up with 100%. That's the kicker. So I'm just going to set this one at 70% because you're smart enough that you kind of already know this stuff. And now that I've set this to be 100%, I can click on the assign scoring members, and I can say who is going to be on the scoring team. The listing, the person that created this could be one of the scoring members. You could have a distribution list. There's none created, but you could have a distribution list that you've created or that somebody's created in a system administrator screen. Or you can manually type the scores in. If you can actually allow somebody that does not work for your company to be a scorer, be part of the scoring committee member team. The reason that is allowed is because, let's say you have a consultant, let's say you're building a bridge, or you're building something and you have a consultant that you want that consultant to be part of the scoring committee team. If you add their email address, consultant, whatever, at AOL.com, I'm just kind of showing you that for kicks. But if you add that consultant's email address, then that consultant will be notified, but they can't get into the system to do anything except score. They can only score the bids that they're assigned to. Okay? So that gives you an idea. Gives you an idea about that. let's see here. We got
But I have a question. In case, for example, in this case, the price will be scored automatically, so you don't need a person. It's like an obvious criteria, which is based on the bid, will be scored automatically, while for non-financial criteria, it will be necessary that the person gives a score, or how it works with the.
I'm very impressed with your knowledge. You are 100% correct. You can set up ProRFX so that scoring can be done on the price level. Scoring can be done automatically, but you can also set it up so that you can do it manually if you want. I'm going to show you in the end, because it sounds like you already know this stuff quite a lot. So in the end, what ends up happening is when the scores are done, the bids come in and the scores are done, in the end what you want is a bid tabulation report. And this is kind of and we have multiple, depends on how you want it done, but we have multiple bid tabulation reports. This is one example. So in this particular example, we have 10 points that are possible. We convert everything to like a 10-point system. And so 10 points are the maximum number of points, or the maximum total points possible for each element. And then depending on how the committee members score, the tabulation report tabulates it all up, and it says, hey, for the scoring side, for the technical response side, this is the scoring, and these vendors up here, these criteria, these are the criteria. This vendor here has scored the most for the technical criteria side, and they scored 97.5%. You'll see that all the highest scores are highlighted in green. That means they're the highest ones, okay?
And this is an example of the report download from the system, right?
Correct. This is when you're done, when everybody's done scoring, there's a link that comes up that says bid tabulation report. You click that link, and this report comes out for you. So it's like instantaneous. And then down here, this is an example of what you said, where the pricing is automatic. The system automatically tells you who the best prices are, and you can see that the price, Tiger Direct, this company Tiger Direct, that they had the best price at $58,980. So now it's the buyer's responsibility to figure out who is going to be awarded, because this is 93%, and see what their price is 71. So they got to balance it out to figure out who they want to score. But this gives them the information, and the statistics are all up here. This is a Microsoft tablet, Surface tablet. This is the person that created the listing, the notifications that were sent out. 10 vendors were watching. 6 vendors said that they were intending to bid, but 7 vendors said that they were going to bid, but only 6 vendors actually did. And so that's one example of a tabulation report. I think that we have, we got many. I'm not sure of how. Okay, here's another example. This one's a little bit different because it deals with services, but it shows you, your header information. This is for banking services. It shows you the person that created it, how many were watching, how many notifications were sent out. So 11 people are watching it, 11 companies are watching it, but only 3 did. SunTrust Bank, Wells Fargo Bank, and this other bank. And so we have these different scoring committee members. Okay, so this is a scoring committee member, that's a scoring committee member, and that's a scoring committee member. And then we have these different criteria for the scores, and then it again highlights it. But in the end, at the bottom, you get this particular column, or this row. I'm sorry, that column was SunTrust Bank. That was the column that ended up being the best scored as far as technical or services, however you want to say it. And then down here shows you the price. So Wells Fargo was actually cheapest, but SunTrust Bank was scored technically the highest. And then, so there's all these bid tabulation reports. It really depends on how you want it and what you want, but you could select them all anyway. Let me jump back
Yeah.
over here. So you got that idea.
I'm impressed with the report structure. Yeah, nice.
Thank you. We have areas for other things like, header attachments, if you use that. This is where I'm not sure if you guys use this, but if you have any formal questions, this is where the questions are due by. You set that. Conference call, webinar information, pre-bid meetings, if you have mandatory or not mandatory. This can actually, if you set this to mandatory and the vendor does not attend the pre-bid meeting, they will not be allowed to bid. They'll get a notice on the screen that says you didn't attend the pre-bid meeting, it was required. If you have any problem with this, you have to call the client or, whoever this listing creator is. That's how that works. So you even can have selection committee meetings if you get into that. And then you can sometimes I'm not sure exactly why, I haven't figured this out yet, but sometimes organizations may need to attach an addendum at the same time they're advertising the tender. I don't know how that works, but this allows you to do that. But also you can attach addendums after the solicitation has been advertised, which is what I'm kind of accustomed to.
Okay, I have a question. Is it possible to, in the beginning, before set some prerequisites, for example, acceptance of NDA, or as it was terms and conditions? For example, I attach my addendum in the precise format that I would like to. That's why I ask suppliers which would like to bid to accept it, because I don't want to lose the time if they are not ready to accept it.
There's two ways to do this. One I'm getting ready to show you, which is the most common. The other way is to make it system automated, so that the vendor who wants to bid, and this is typically associated with tax information, if they have not updated their tax information or insurance information, especially if it's a services and they need to have some kind of proof of insurance, the vendor has a vendor portal. Hopefully that's time out on me. Okay, so I'm switching this to the vendor has their own application. And in this application, they manage their account. And so in the United States, we have something called a W-9 tax document. So when they go into their account on their screen, they have kind of this dashboard view of everything that's going on. So they see the invoices that are due, they see listings or tenders that are available that apply to them that they might want to bid on. But then they also have these tasks needing attention, and you can see that there's, invoice payments due, there's tax documents due. So what you could say is if you have any tax documents that are expired.
Yeah, it's clear. It also can be for certificates or anything.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
So,
Glenn, is there something you can't do?
Oh, he got in there. Something
So I'm
you can't
still
do.
here. I just want to make sure that Miss Maria knows that I'm here, and I just,
Yeah.
I'm letting you drop this whole thing. But is there anything you can't do, Glenn?
There's always some weird situation.
I would like to specify my question once again. So, for instance, I have a tender with very sensitive information. So, I would not like that do not, before they accept non-disclosure agreement, to access to the content of the tender. I can do this section or where.
Yes, we can do that. I'm getting ready to show you that in a different way. But what I want to do is show you the automated process first. And then we'll get back and I'll show you the kind of the more what's typically used. So this is the automated process. You can say if they have any tax documents outstanding or if they don't have insurance, then do not let them bid on this or whatever, and then they get a notice. The more standard way is to create to add. We would have to actually add that module, but the module gets added to this create process that when I click next here, you'll see that a lot of things are automatically pre-populated. And so because I'm creating a services for demolition contractors, or services for demolition contractors. I've set the system up automatically to know that these documents or these clauses or templates are required as part of the vendor or the bidder being to either to you, the bid, or to respond. It depends on how you configure it. That's it's very, but yeah, that's how that works. You can actually have some of these that require the listing creator to enter data. Like, for example, let's say estimated value of the contract is, $500,000 or whatever. So the user would actually have to enter in the estimated value because we really don't know as a template. And this gets more involved with either bid bonds or insurance or liability, any kind of that kind of stuff. We have contract renewal escalation, contract length. That's a good one. So you may want to, say it's 3 years or 36 months or whatever. But just giving you an idea of the different types of entries that are required. Then so these are the things that are automatically associated with services demolition, okay? And how we know that is because when you're in a systems administrator panel, you can create this to be associated. So now when you're creating a tender, you don't have to worry, am I missing some kind of a document that needs to be associated with this type of tender or, whatever. It's automatic for you. And that's a big plus because there's a lot of time spent on trying to make sure you get all the right documents associated with the tender you're creating or the solicitation you're creating. So, and then if you see in here that you want to add something else, so this is at the header level, and that's basically means that, it's just before the rest of the body. But if you want to add another section, you can click Add Section, and we'll just say, this is just kind of a dumb thing, but we'll just say favorite colors section, and and then we can say user defined. Let's see.
Okay, that can be, and I also add as much as I want. Okay. This is
discussion. Yep. And then you can set your multiple choices to say, pick your favorite color, red, green, blue. And you can also assign these, if you want, to be automatically scored. So because it's multiple choice, then we know what the value can be, right? So so we can say understand requirements. You can put to that, and then you can say the auto score will be, if they pick red, they'll get 3. If they pick green, they'll get 6. If they pick blue, they get 10.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I have just realized that maybe running out of the time, and we have not covered the second part with the of catalogs because we went too much in detail.
That's okay. It's really I didn't know that you guys had a time limit, so we can reschedule for another time or whatever. But anyway, so that you kind of get an idea of this. Let me jump over to the catalog process. These systems are very mature systems. They're not, there's a lot of functionality. So it's kind of like trying to demo SAP in an hour. Okay, so we're going to go over to the catalog system or the e-procurement solution. And let's see here.
So in reality, the sourcing part we have covered. I think was there something that
at least you got a good idea, right? So if we need to ask questions or have another meeting, we can do that as well. But at least you have a good idea of how that works. Again, here when we're logging into the e-procurement side, this particular user has a lot of different credentials to do contract management, to do procurement, to do all kind of crazy stuff. I'm just going to create the requisition role and then show you how this works. to do a catalog search, the features that we have in this product, again, there's a lot of different features, a lot of different configurations. One of the most popular, actually what we have a patent pending in on, one of the things that we have patent pending in on for this is price alerts. So we do a price comparison along with our catalog shopping. These are catalog shopping elements, so you can shop for service supplies, books, services, or you can do something called non-catalog requisitioning, which means that you basically create the catalog requisition manually, and that's how that works. Or you can even opt for expense reports if you're into that. But we can just do a sample here of, let's see if I do electric starter. And we modeled our catalog process to be similar to Amazon to make it easier. So you do the search, you come up with the item. It tells you if it's under contract. This is, again, test data. But you'll notice some unique features of our system, and one is these alerts. In this particular case, this item right here, this scotch-free heat laminate thingamajig, is $321.48 at Staples, but it's the alert is saying that there is a vendor that offers this at a cheaper price.
Okay.
So
may I interrupt you? Me as a company, I have contracts with both of them, with Staples, Amazon, and the other competitors, and they're because the idea which I have in mind, like with Staples, I align a list of items that I would like to buy from them with a special price, for example, printing paper, I don't know, pens, and etc. And when this catalog, I see only these prices which I have agreed with Staples. In case of Amazon, for instance, as it might be a vendor of some stuff that not possible to predict and align the price in advance. I have the possibility to access to their broad catalog that they have on their website. Both possibilities exist, or it just synchronizes with the website?
No. The technology that we have allows you to do exactly what you want to do. However, our technology we're the pioneers in certain technologies, and that's really why we're number one, because in the old days, we had the mindset that we had a contract for office supplies, and we award it to Staples, and we have a contract for plumbing supplies, and we award it to this other company. Those days are, in the United States, they're gone.
Okay.
Now, what they do now, the technology, and we're the leaders in this technology, what they do now is they say, okay, we're going to have either multiple awards. So let's say that we put out a solicitation that has, or we put out a tender that says, we're doing a tender for office supplies, and we're going to award it to 2 or 3 vendors. And then those 2 or 3 vendors, they're awarded to those 2 or 3 vendors, and those 2 or 3 vendors upload the catalogs, and then whoever's price is best gets the order. And that's kind of where we in the United States are moving, and actually the rest of the world will be moving that way, because you can see in this case, in this test system, we only are showing contract catalogs. Okay, so it shows.
Okay,
And so we have, in this case, we have contract catalogs. So for Staples, we're going to be paying $321, and under the old mentality, under the old days, how we did business, we would buy that item for $321 because it was under contract from Staples, and there we go. But now, with our technology, we can click on this price alert tool, and it says, well, we also have a contract for CDW that has this item, and we could save $103. So that's like 30%, 33% we could save by sourcing it from this other vendor. And
okay,
so
that's I got it. For instance, in the US, I understand that you are much more better developed, and for instance, in Europe, is it my job to contact now Staples and the Office Depot, I don't know, other suppliers of stationery to upload their prices in your system, or there is already some agreement?
You know, Maria, you're sharp enough that I already know the questions you're going to ask. So it's kind of funny because you're almost one step ahead of me, and I'm trying to keep up with you. So the way this works is that the vendors, we have, you know, in Word, you can create a document and you can say that you want to load a template from Word, templates like for resumes. And so you go onto the Word, you go to the Microsoft library and you download a template for resume. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. That's basically the technology that we have. So vendors upload their catalogs to a library in cyberspace in our system. So we have all these vendors that have uploaded catalogs. This is a test system, so there's not that many. But we got thousands and thousands of vendors. When you create a tender or solicitation and you advertise it and people bid, part of that tender should say that you'll be uploading your catalog to the World ERP network. And so it's their responsibility to upload the catalog to the network, and you as a buyer, all you have to do is subscribe to the catalog that you want to be downloaded into your instance. So these are all the catalogs that exist in the cyberspace, so to speak. And and when you want to subscribe to one, if you are the company that has put out the tender for it, when you subscribe to it, it just automatically downloads into your system. If you want to subscribe to a catalog that somebody else put a tender out for you, if you see here, the contract holder can be Howard County Public Schools, can be National Joint Powers, so it's not all the same organization that put the tender out. If you want to subscribe to this catalog, but you're not the person that created the tender, when you click the subscribe button, a request is automatically sent to this vendor asking them if you can use that catalog. And if they say yes, then you'll be able to subscribe to that catalog. And most of our organizations subscribe to almost all the catalogs that they are familiar with. The reason is because, in theory, the more catalogs that you have, and these are all under contract, you can see the contract numbers right here. Of course, this is test data, but you'll see that you have over here, you can say only display contract catalogs, display B2B catalogs, display sale flyer catalogs. But in a contract situation, almost all of our customers try to subscribe to as many catalogs as they can, because when they do a search for a product, they want to find who's got the cheapest price on whatever it is. And most of our clients save. Now, most of our clients are usually 500 million and above. A lot of them are above even $1 billion clients, you know, as far as revenue per year. But most of our clients. What is your company's revenue per year, by the way?
We are not that big. Our revenue was around 700,000 euros.
Okay. So just to give you an idea, let me just kind of calculate in my mind. Most of our clients save at least 15 to 20% using this technology, just to give you an idea.
Okay.
And the catalogs kind of manage themselves. You'll see they have start and end dates. So when the catalog is getting ready to expire, you'll be notified, and the vendor gets notified. but you don't really have to worry about it. So all you basically have to do is say, I want to subscribe to this. I don't want to subscribe. If I want to unsubscribe, I want to unsubscribe. I just, click unsubscribe, and then so you sure you want to unsubscribe? Yep. And then
so does it mean for instance me as a quite not a very big company, I can join to a catalog which was negotiated by a bigger player, so bigger better prices, and I can just join it. Okay, that's it.
Yep.
And only maybe afterwards to have an idea of the network in Europe, because we have some in US, but this is the most of the business is still in Europe. To have understanding what is the coverage, how many of our current suppliers can be are already in the network of your system, and how many of them can be invited. I don't know how attractive this can be to them. And the other, let's move to the process part. So in case of services which are which cannot be put just in the catalog, because from the scheme that I share with you, in the moment we have quite long process of purchase requisition, then approval of the purchase requisition, then placing of the order, approval of the order, and we don't have any outline agreement in place. So also for the services where we have a frame contract, all approvals have to be done again and again. And the solution which we need for services have the possibility to submit one purchase requisition, for example, in the beginning, connected with the contract that we have signed, and then allow people to book different or issue different purchase orders to this book to this contract and avoid another of approvals. So
yeah, we have all that. Let me just quickly show you. I know you're pushed for time here, so let me just show you.
It's boring. Whatever I ask you.
I'm sorry, guys. 1 second. I have to get going back to the Pentagon at 11 o'clock. I have a meeting. I will be back on Maria with any communications. Just email me. You guys can continue this presentation, okay? And I will be in touch via email, okay, Maria? Whatever you need.
Okay, thank you very much. I think anyway we'll maybe another 10 minutes and we have finished.
Okay, very good, very good. Sounds good. We'll be in touch via email. I have to get running to the Pentagon.
Okay, have a nice day.
Very nice to meet you, and we'll be in touch. Bye, Glenn.
Okay, thanks, Tina.
We'll talk soon. Yep.
Okay,
Bye.
so what I did, I'm trying to help be as quick as possible here. What I did was I went to view requisitions or orders that have been created and submitted to the workflow. So I'm in this in-process folder. You can see we have different folders. We have purchase orders. Purchase orders generally are the orders that's gone to the vendor, have been they could be released or non-released. If we go to purchase orders, you'll see that that we have these not released, and then we also should have some that are released. The arrow indicates that they're released. So depending on what systems that you have a license for, we connect everything to the record. So, for example, if you created a tender in ProRFX and you created a contract as a result of that tender in Contract FX, then Spend Manager Pro will associate all the orders to the tender and the contract. So you can have a complete history. If you go to ProRFX and click a report, it'll show you a complete history of that tender and all the purchases made against that tender. Or if you go into Spend Manager Pro, which is this model, you could say, this is a purchase that I made, give me a report on what contract or tender that's associated with that. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to view one of these so you can kind of see. So we have the header information, and again, unfortunately, it's a test information, but you can kind of imagine. So you can have quote information, your notes, your line level information. This is your account code, your information there. But here's your approval history information. So on the left panel, it shows the anticipated approval steps. And then on your history panel or tab, it'll show the actual steps that it's gone through thus far. So in this particular case, this order is sitting in this person's queue, and it's in the processing queue. So we show you also a thermometer of how long it took at the different phases to get this, requisition approved and passed. So we have tons of different, things that you can.
It seems almost to be, as you have mentioned also before, replacing ERP. And if we have already SAP and all this process, and we just need to synchronize. So, for instance, I didn't understand the contract. If we have done an RFP assigned to the suppliers, and orders can be linked to it. The step of the contract, I don't know, the fact that in this case the approval has been already, so requisition and purchase order. Now we're in purchase requisition part, right?
Correct. Yeah, the contract piece, basically the primary goal of the contract, as you'd already know, is that we need to make sure that everything is compliant. So we need to make sure that if there's spend against that contract, that it doesn't exceed the value. Or we may need to make sure that if the contract is expired, that you don't allow purchases to be made against that contract as it's expired. That's how it all kind of goes together. To show you real quickly, when we go in to create this, let's say, I'll just create a real quick one here just so you can kind of get a flow idea of this. And of course, we have to, one of our main goals is to really try to keep our products to all look the same so there is less learning curve. So I'm going to add this, this little thingamajig is, add that to the cart. This little conference thing is kind of getting in the way there. But I added it to the cart, so I go up to my cart here, and you'll see that you drive me crazy. All right, let's see here. Go up to my cart, and you'll see, the items in the cart. I want to view my cart. I can add more stuff, like, for example, this is coming from Office Depot. Let's pick something, from another company so you can see how this works.
If I can, I would like to, I don't know, make an order for cleaning services with my provider that...
Right, that we would have to do under the Services tab.
Okay, so sorry.
That's one thing that's one thing we do have to do differently. So this one, I'm just going to click. This is from a company called Granger, and you'll see that it notifies me that I add that to the cart. When I go up to my cart, and I go to View Cart, you'll see that this already broke it out into two separate orders because it's associated with two separate vendors. And if I go to Checkout, then I create my header, and this is all information that you can construct, client fields, where you want it delivered, all that good stuff. And then, of course, we have the items here, and you can, depending on how you have your account codes, most of our clients want us to get dynamic data, account code information from their general ledger or from their financial accounting system, so that when the user creates the solicitation, they know how much money, what account code to use, and how much money is in that particular account, and that type of thing. And so right now I said to apply this account code to both purchases, but I can come down here and obviously change that to a different account code. Or I can split this and I say, okay, well, I want to I did say split. Come on. Let's see. Let's do it this way. So I can split this and say I want to change this to 50% going to this account code and 50% going to another account code.
Okay, I'm sorry for your voice.
Yeah, no problem. It's just I had a little bit of a cold earlier in the week. And then when everything is done, then you submit. Now, you can also do if they allow credit cards. You can pay by credit card.
No, that would not be an option, so it's no.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
We're very much against that, by the way. But we do provide it because some people still want it. So then, yeah, you just click Submit PO requisitions, and then it goes through the approval process. I'll show you what's been submitted, and this will go through the approval process, and then the approver gets it. I don't know who the approver was. I didn't check, but let me just change this to an approver so you can see what that looks like. Not sure which one, but so, and that comes over to, this isn't the ones, but it just gives you an idea. It comes over, this is what the approver sees, and the approver can review it or approve it. If he reviews it, they see, they have a couple different views. So they
the approval flow is decided now or can be also automatic. So depending on my role and my place in the organizational structure, I place an order and then it's automatically sent to the approver.
Correct. Yep. So it depends on how you want to set it up. We also have digital signatures, so you can sign with a digital signature. I don't even know what my password is anymore. Let's see if password's not match. Oh boy.
Okay, don't worry. It's I understood.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's fine.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
In 5 minutes maximum, I have to go, and I ask you two more questions. Is it possible to have a budget check? So incorporate the cost center, and so the system it allows to so synchronize with our SAP to check if for this particular purchase this requester has money budgeted in his budget.
Correct. That's exactly what I was showing you with these account codes. Let me just blow by that. Let me do it a different way, just so you see the non-catalogs. So I'm going to do non-catalog supplies. Oops. All right. And then I pick a vendor that I want to create the requisition for, or the PO. I enter the information. If I have a quote, I would enter the quote information. I can attach, put attachments. Enter the line items, and I'll just put one line item. And so for services, it looks different than for line items, but this will give you, I know you're pushed for time, so I'm going to kind of blow through this as quickly as I can. And so here, it says, what do you want to pay with? And you can either split it and choose. These are the account codes that are associated with that user, and these are the actual balances, the real-time balances for those account codes. So now the user knows this is going to cost me, $1,000. If I use this account code, it's not. I can't. It won't approve it because there's not enough money. If I use this account code, it'll approve it. But and you can just make it 100% or whatever.
Okay. Instead of account number, credit card number, there can be our cost center, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You can set that up. There's so many different configurations, as you already know.
Yeah. I trust you. Yeah, I understand that you have all this functionality. Another one of final questions. Approval flow and tracking on the mobile device is also possible. Are there mobile applications?
All of our products are mobile compatible, yes.
Okay.
The one thing I did want to show you real quick, and I was actually expecting for you to ask, but you didn't get there yet, probably because you're probably so busy. But you can also manage the items in the catalogs that you're presenting to the user. Like, let's say that oh, this isn't a good example. Let's see, paper. Let's say that you have a department that deals with law enforcement or security, but you don't want other people to see those catalog items except for your security people. You could go in here and create lists and say do display, do not display, you know, and so you can configure all that too. You can do it by cost center, you can do it by department, you can do whatever, however this is, however you want to set it up. And you can see these links up here also tell you real time, you know, what needs to be done as far as the user goes. So that's, you know, I think pretty much you know, have a good idea based on what you know. It sounds like you already kind of have a good idea of how things, you know, work.
Yeah, yes, hope so. I hope so. Okay, thank you very much for the, no, one more question before we finish. In the contract management part, it's also possible to implement the workflow for contract approval before.
Yeah, that gets contract management is probably the more robust workflow, only because it deals with vendor workflow too, because when you create the contract, so you can create the contract and send it through your workflow and get all the approvals like from legal and from the vice president and everybody, and then it comes back and you have all the internal approvals done and you're happy, but now you got to get the vendor to approve it, right? So, so now you have a whole new set of potential workflow. I mean, it's easy. It looks easy in the system, but it depends on how you want it to set up, because we can enable the vendor to also have a workflow so that when you send them the contract, they can have a workflow internally so that they don't, you know, so they can send it to their legal department, which is usually what ends up happening, especially with the big vendors, right? So it depends on how you want to set that up. But yeah, we can do anything. You can compare the documents, the contract documents. If they kick back, if they make changes to the contract, it'll come back as rejected in the workflow, and you can look at the documents and you can compare the original to what they changed. And it's just like Word. It has things crossed through, straight through. It has comments. It has, you know, anything you can possibly imagine that thing has. But that's a whole other system.
Another functionality. So what we have seen, this is this spend manager is for catalogs and
purchasing.
And so the P2P process.
Yeah.
The sourcing is another system that we have seen in the beginning, and if eventually we would like to get also contracts, it will be a separate system, right?
Correct, but they all work together, so you won't have to worry about, you click a button of data transfers and all that stuff,
Okay, regarding the cost part, what information do you need from our side as a potential client to make a first quote for these two tools and potentially as an option for contracts, just to have an idea of the price?
Right. So really what we need is all the locations that that you want to use the tool at. So if it's outside of Italy, you know, what countries they are, and give us an idea of the number of users, just as a general number of users. So in other words, let's say Italy, you have 500 users. England, you have 100 users, whatever. Just give us an idea like that. Also,
buyers for in case of sourcing, it would be, and requesters in case of P2P system.
Right. And so usually, to be honest, the best way, and my salespeople actually hate me to say this. They cringe when I say this, actually. But I would recommend that you start off with ProRFX, the sourcing piece. And then if you like it, and I know you'll like it, because all of our clients are they're not only like our stuff, but they're very committed to us, which is just awesome. But if you like it, and then you say, okay, well, I want to price on, we can give you the prices. It's no problem. But I'm just saying, you don't have to get everything at once. You may want to take it one step at a time and kind of get.
Your recommendation is to start with sourcing or P2P? I didn't get.
I would start with sourcing myself. That would be my recommendation, only because you need to get all the vendors, situated and make sure we get all that taken care of, and all that whole process makes it easier, because when you go to Spend Manager Pro for the e-procurement side, all the vendors will be there, all the hard work will be done, so it just makes it easier.
Okay, just to share with you the conditions that I evaluate here internally. We are more, this fact of having very long approval process, this P2P part seems to be a bigger pain for us. That's why we are more concentrated on it. That's why I would still ask 2 quotes for part and for this P2P as well, because this is slightly a higher priority than sourcing, even if sourcing is also important.
Right. Okay. Yeah, just give me an idea of the model, the countries involved, the number of users in those countries, and then
okay.
Let's do it.
Spend is not important, just an idea of the size of the company, but end users.
Yeah,
okay.
That's fine. Yeah. And then also, do you need any grants management? Do you deal with grants at all?
So I didn't understand.
I'm not sure if, they have to have something similar to grants in Italy, I would imagine. We have them in other countries.
Spend an L, you mean, or?
A grant is like something that either a government or a big company gives, like as an incentive to, like, let's say if you're a small business and you're in a country, France, they don't work. I'm just kidding. But in France, they may want to promote, small businesses or whatever. So there may be companies. France is definitely not a good example, but they may be companies that say, okay, well, I'll give you $5,000 to do because you're a small business, or I'll give you $5,000 because you're a minority company or whatever. So they put out these grants, and it's like free money, but you have to qualify for it. Do you deal with that at all?
I'm not sure. I have to check. I'm not aware.
Okay. All right, so I'm just trying to get an idea because we have a grants model. We have a few modules in Spend Manager Pro, but I think I kind of understand what you guys are already looking for anyway. So if you just give me kind of an idea of what the size the models are, then we'll take it from there.
Okay, then perfect. Thank you very much for your time and for this nice demonstration. Then I will be in touch with Marc Antonio, right?
Yep.
Because I'm not sure if your email was in copy, because if it was your email, my messages could not reach.
Oh, I see. It's very nice to meeting you too. I was very impressed with your knowledge and skills.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then we stay in touch and have a nice.
Okay, you too.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.